Audio Jungle.
When I deduced that the petrodollar was being dismantled in 2013-14, I made a conclusion that OPEC is going to just become a gathering ground where Arabs get together and shout at each other and make agreements that don't hold. And then I learned something from The Voice. I made a call. I said in August, I said the September 2017 Vienna OPEC meeting was going to be a shouting match and a disaster. And The Voice said to me, well, Jim, OPEC really doesn't have a role anymore. Remember, August of 2017.
Right.
Maybe it was 17, 2 years ago, 17. And he said to me, Jim, do you know why the Arabs get together? Do you know why they have the Vienna OPEC meetings? And I said, I don't know, to get out of the hot sun? And they said, no. Vienna has the best prostitutes in all of Europe. And they go for 10 grand a shot. And I said, well, I'm guessing that the shot is all evening, includes drinks? And he said, yeah, it's not like an hour session. And I said, okay, well, that's interesting. So I made the call that they would not have any agreements whatsoever, that they would have shouting matches. And now something has happened since then. It used to be that the Saudis, I'm wandering, but that's okay. It used to be that the Saudis would lead in an agreement, some kind of an accord, some policy. And I don't even care what it was. It might be just a limit output or something like that. And the rest of the renegade nations like Venezuela, Angola, Nigeria, Algeria, that's what I call the fringe. They're not Arabs, okay? Now, Algeria is Arab, but they're not Gulf Arab. Algeria is the only Arab nation I mentioned on the fringe there. There would be disobedience and breaking away from the accord among the fringe nations. Now we got something different. OPEC comes together and they make an accord, and it's really not with a nucleus around the Saudis. And the Saudis break it. So we got a complete reversal of OPEC, which is a signal, not one, it's a symptom that it's been broken down. Okay, the point, here's the forecast I made. The U.S. loses control of the oil market as OPEC dissolves. To fill the void, the Russian Rosneft steps in. Russian Rosneft, what do? They agree to buy Iranian oil. Why? Russia's a producer. They're number one. It's to provide Iran liquidity and to save their hides, to save their financial well-being. Rosneft and Russian Rosneft comes in and says, we'll buy Saudi oil. Well, Saudi oil doesn't need to be blended or mixed at all. So they're suffering a liquidity problem. And I think Russia also concluded, if we do this for the Saudis, we're going to get control, we're going to infiltrate. And the Saudis had a problem back then of blowing money on the Yemen war. So they had a liquidity problem. The Yemen war is not well understood by the American public. It absolutely drained UAE and the Saudis of their cash. While the oil price went down. So they got a double hit. Okay, it is so now pervasive about the lost dollar volume within the oil market that the U.S. is desperate for the shale industry to produce oil in order to make up what the Saudis lose, what the Saudis have walked away from, what the Saudis are no longer conducting in dollar-based oil sales. My Euroraj colleague has a forecast that we're going to see a 30 handle on the West Texas oil price, WTIC, West Texas Intermediate Crude, where it's going to go under $40. And right now the Wall Street banks are ridiculously exposed to the shale sector. They were 2 years ago, they were complaining that the oil sector is not in good shape, and we can't continue with the way we are doing this. In other words, they can't lend money for debt service from these shale companies. I think the Wall Street Bank is going to go down because of the shale sector exposure. Okay, that's U.S. lose control. I said that over a year ago, 2 years ago. Okay, the next one, the 11th one. The dual universe comes into form. Let me define it. The East in Asia will be dominated by RMB in the oil trade. By that I mean they're going to make a lot of payments for their oil, for their trade, not just oil, for their trade. They're going to make a lot of payments, and it'll be in the Chinese yuan currency. I like calling it the RMB because here's why. Very simple. You have the Japanese yen, you have the Korean won, you have the Chinese yuan. Okay, they're all ending in N. They all sound alike if you're drunk. So I like calling it the Chinese RMB. Okay, so the East will be dominated by RMB trade. The Chinese, I believed, would be rebellious and would revolt against the dollar. You have the gold oil RMB contract, the triangle working in Shanghai, the futures contract triangle, and it would enable, I think, for instance, Iranian oil trade with China could be based in the gold trade node. It could be based on the petro-yuan contract in Shanghai, as much as they wanted. And Iran has got the Export-Import Bank. They really developed the barter trade between Iran and China. Okay, so the dual universe, what's the other side? The other side of the dual is the U.S. and the West, Europe and parts of most of the American hemisphere, including, like Latin America, Central America, South America. They're bound to the dollar or they get punished, or they get their leaders killed. Like Chavez. We murdered Chavez in Venezuela. We murdered him. My NSA contact said we used a weapon with a 30-meter range to induce a heart attack, and we've got other weapons with the same range to induce an explosion of cancer in 48 hours. And that's how we murdered Chavez. Okay, so the dual universe will be the dollar with the West, Europe. Okay, watch Germany, because they're moving away from the dollar toward the euro currency oil trade. This is very important. They're what I call the frontier. You got the West with the dollar, the East with the RMB, and the frontier in the center. Germany, Saudi, Iran. Wow, this is where the battleground is. This is where they're going to try to put 1 foot in each pond. The dollar pond, the euro pond, and the RMB. The euro is really a defiant step. Okay, that's the dual universe, and it's going to continue. And, I got to mention this. It's sordid, but it's real. Langley is involved in numerous criminal enterprises. They're sometimes called the 7 silos. Just think of narcotics. Think of stolen weapons arms trade. Think of bioweapons trade using Fort Detrick in Maryland. Think of human trafficking, both white women and children, and organs. So that's all kind of, human trafficking. And they got more. The voice told me that in the Greek ports there are containers. Like you see a container vessel with hundreds, there are actually about 2,000 of them. Langley has containers in Greek ports that are filled with $100 bills shrink-wrapped on pallets. And I said, how much is in each container? And he said, it's pretty hard to estimate, but just think in the $10, $20 billion range.